Sounds good. Well, it looks like we have most of our expected attendees in the meeting. So I'm going to get started. Thank you everyone for joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kelly Ziegler, and I'm the project coordinator for new venture creation at the Research Innovation Office. And please allow me to introduce my colleague, Melanie Lang, who's the executive director at the Wood Center here at the University of Guelph. Melanie and her team have created many opportunities for businesses and students. And one of these opportunities is the student consulting program that she'll be telling us more about today. And for other resources available to business owners, I'd encourage you to check out our Guelph Guide to Entrepreneurship. This is an online resource that is updated monthly, and it features startup events, funding programs, and other news. And I'll add the link to that in the chat. And for now, I'll turn it over to Melanie.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks to Dana and team for having me here today. I'm going to be going over a few of the resources that we offer within our center, but know that the Research Innovation Office on campus, as well as our Wood Center here on campus, we do our best where we can to work together and to bring, our entrepreneurial and innovation content and offerings, like service offerings, to you all. So I'm going to be focusing a little bit on what specifically our center does and where we have in the past been able to collaborate with others either on campus or out in the community. Knowing that what our timeline is for today, what I've done is I've tried to keep my speaking notes to a minimum, because I really want to encourage some dialogue. So we'll see, that's my plan as of right now. So we'll see how that goes. Now, while I'm just trying to share the screen here, I was just going to point out that, Dana, your dog is well behaved in the background. Mine is currently sleeping but snoring. So I'm very hopeful that she doesn't become too distracting. So we'll go from there. Perfect. Now, just curious if you were all looking at my intro slide.
Yes, we are.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So as Kelly mentioned, my name is Melanie Lang, and I'm the executive director of our John F. Wood Center here at the University of Guelph. We were named the John F. Wood Center in 2018 by Mr. John Wood. But we've actually been in operation since 2009. And so we're really excited just to be able to see and share with you today some of the programs that we've been running since inception, and then others, as we have rolled them out over the years. So I thought it would be helpful if I could really quickly just share in terms of who we are, what we do, and the programs that we run, recognizing that my time with you today will be spent sharing primarily about our business consulting program. So we offer a suite of programs within the innovation entrepreneurship space. So we focus on new venture creation and incubation through our Hub Incubator Program. We have a maker space where we work with some folks both on campus as well as in the surrounding community around prototyping. We spend a great deal of time training on and delivering services targeted towards problem solving for innovation, which what I'm going to be talking to you about here today certainly falls within that category. We do a great deal of outreach and engagement, both in terms of volunteering as well as other service-oriented offerings. And then lastly, the entrepreneurial education that we bring to the table, and elements of the business consulting also tie into this leg of our business. We are driven heavily by our values within our program, and anytime we engage with a potential client or we decide that we're wanting to create a new offering, we always come back to our values and make sure that there's an alignment and then there's a fit. Some of the tools that we use within our consulting program that I'll briefly touch on a bit with you today, we also use those for ourselves and make sure that our what we're offering and who we're offering it to aligns, and that it's, our value proposition remains intact as we continue to grow and evolve. So just as a really high level, I suppose the two things that I wanted to share a little bit with you and dive a little bit more into with respect to the problem solving for innovation in the entrepreneurial education. So primarily what we do is we take more of a practitioner approach, whereby we help people and organizations, businesses, try to innovatively solve problems. It could be a very early stage exploration that they're at that we help support. It could be more developed, already been done within the organization, and perhaps we're helping to do some financial analysis with them. But essentially what we're trying to teach our students, and I use that term very inclusively, so keep that in mind. When I refer to students, I also I mean both undergrad as well as graduate students. And so the students that we work with, we are helping them develop transferable, replicable skills and processes that they can then carry forward with them once they graduate. So these are students, these are senior level undergraduate students as well as graduate students that we work with. So it's very important for us that we create a way in which they can enhance their professional skills. And then with respect to the entrepreneurial education, this is an ongoing, needs assessment that we do with our campus community. So we work very closely with faculty in terms of helping them bring that content into their classrooms. We work with business owners and community members to ensure that the mindsets that we're teaching on, the entrepreneurial mindsets, is very much at the forefront of the programs that we deliver. And and then again, where the educational aspect comes in is with respect to our incubator program. So we are teaching on the principles of new venture creation and startups and how to grow and scale a business. So with that in mind, perfect. Some of you may have seen some of our marketing across campus, where essentially what we're trying to do is create programming to help bring your ideas to life. So I mentioned a few in the last slide that we use to help drive this home, but from a collaboration standpoint, where we have been able to work with Rio very, very closely are some of our events and networking that we offer to try to really enhance and help bring attention to the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem across campus. We also use, collaborative tools and initiatives when it comes to trying to drive home and to try to teach about business development practices, about that entrepreneurial mindset. So not everybody who we work with wants to start a business. But regardless, especially some of the students that we work with. So some of them want to go ahead into academia. Others are wanting to go into the professional field of choice. And so when they graduate, they're either going to work for themselves or work for somebody else. Those are traditionally the two paths that somebody chooses. And so our job is to ensure that regardless of the path that they choose, that they have the skills that they need in order to be successful, regardless of those paths. And so that we spend a lot of time talking about the entrepreneurial mindset. And so that is things like optimism and getting comfortable in ambiguity and, like iterating and reiterating, trials and trial and error and prototyping and those sorts of things. So there's lots of different, and around critical thinking as well. So there are lots of elements that we bring throughout all of these areas that we offer. And but certainly our three critical areas of focus is around new venture creation, employability, as well as community engagement. So as I briefly mentioned at the beginning when I was talking about the most inclusive way to describe students, our stakeholders include undergraduate, graduate, alumni, and community. And again, community, I mean in terms of our cross-campus community, as well as in our surrounding business and organizational community as well. So we have over the years worked with very early stage entrepreneurs that are needing support with their businesses. We have worked with those who are quite late stage, are actually working on a mature business, and they're either exploring refinement or new markets that they want to get into. We've worked with companies who are actually looking at the HR makeup within their organization, or maybe they're interested in a merger, and so we're helping them through some of the research affiliated with that. So it really is actually quite an eclectic mix of clients who we work with. As we start to dive a little bit into the way in which we work with clients, I can share with you at that point examples of some of the different projects that we've taken on over the years. So our specializations, these are the ones that I would say are our flagship offerings. So certainly our business consulting program is what we started with in 2009. And in fact, even years before that, I was teaching business consulting and a food product development course that was geared towards industry. So I have actually been at Guelph and offering these type of industry related and experiential learning related courses since 2005. So it's been a long journey, a very exciting journey. And every time I offer this course, this program, I learn something new that I'm able to then take back and instill that knowledge with our students. So we also have our Incubator Program, the Hub, that started in 2014, and that has been going like phenomenally well. We actually just this past summer graduated our 100th business. So we're really, really proud of how that program has really helped to address some of the needs that we're seeing in our community, both on campus as well as beyond. And happily to report that more than 70% of the businesses that we've incubated over the years remain in business. So it's just phenomenal. I think that speaks to the strengths of the program that we're running. And really excited to see how that certainly continues to evolve and grow. Most recently, over the last year or so, we have developed an innovation toolkit that we are currently in the process of finalizing our digital assets with that. And essentially how we've created that is a series of, what we did is we amassed all of the tools that we were using to teach on and to train on, and we brought it together under a fold of our innovation toolkit. And this is the content that we take into classrooms when we run workshops, when we are teaching in in class sessions, when I am working with my students on their business consulting. We use some of these tools. So it's been an incredibly important part of our center, and it has been a wonderful asset for us to have as we continue to drive our content across campus. Primarily, the transferable skills that we've seen come out of these initiatives is training in and around design thinking and that innovative process, helping to teach on and refine elements pertaining to communication. So we've done quite a bit of pitch training over the years. Those who are on campus and involved with graduate programs may remember seeing the 3MT or the 3-minute thesis pitch competition that takes place. Tyler Zenblock, who's a manager within, he manages our Hub Incubator program, and as well as a few, Marion Scannell within our team have been training on that and delivering workshops and helping grad students prepare for that competition. Critical thinking and complex problem solving in industry is threaded throughout much of what we do, and those are core elements in our delivery. And certainly the foundational skills that we're offering and that we're teaching on around, empathy, emotional intelligence, critical thinking. These are this is in response to industry published reports that we are seeing that this is the content that they need. These are the employability skill sets that they want in their new hires, and we are doing our best to ensure that we are addressing and meeting those needs. And then certainly lastly, we actually have a makerspace on campus. Some of you may have visited our makerspace or may have benefited from programming offered through that space. We have worked with quite a bit of our businesses through a hub who are looking to prototype, and so we'll do some 3D printing with them. We also have other classes across campus that students perhaps are required to do some type of a class-based activity or maybe pertaining to their research. And so we'll support that type of development work. So again, this is another area where we're seeing that there is a need and how we can service that need. With COVID, you know, one of these days we're going to get through a presentation without actually having to use the word COVID, but we're you know, this has forced us to take an opportunistic look at how we can adjust some of our programming that we're currently offering it. So we're looking at new and innovative ways to meet our target audience where they're at. And the Makerspace is a perfect example of this because we are actually now looking at creating a virtual reality experience by students who want to get involved with our Makerspace, and you know, they'll get a tour. They'll be able to tap into certain areas of activities, be it you know wireframe development or 3D printing, those interfaces. And when they are within a certain space, and that brings them to some online modules where they can learn about some of these skill sets, as though they were right in the space themselves. So stay tuned. We're really excited about this latest offering, and we'll be able to share updates with you as we go. So as I mentioned before, we do our best to try to collaborate with as many folks on campus, Rio certainly being one of those units that we try to reach out with. So you know, where we have, say, for instance, collaborate with the faculty is that they may be interested in embedding, you know, entrepreneurship or innovation content within their classes. And so, you know, up until winter 20, when we've collected our metrics, we actually were able to impact over 1,000 students that were able to get touched by the content that we delivered. We co-hosted a number of multidisciplinary events. We worked with units across campus, grad studies in particular, in terms of helping graduate and undergraduate students understand the benefits that they can gain from being entrepreneurial and from, you know, tapping into innovative training. And then we, of course, continue to offer business startup support to those who might be interested in working with us. And this is not just limited to those who are currently on campus. We have a thriving alumni network as well that tend to want to come back to Guelph and to get support on how to start their business. And then why we are all here today, certainly talking to you about our business consulting program. So what does that look like? So over the years, we have, you know, we have supported our clients on a number of different fronts. We have supported strategic planning activities. Sometimes we have folks that come in and they're simply looking for a social media strategy. They may be looking for different communication strategies. I would say that market research, competitive analysis, and aspects of the social media strategy, you know, they often find themselves threaded throughout many of the projects that we work on. So but then sometimes we have projects that solely focus on these particular areas. But, you know, this is, I would say, the areas that we are concentrating on and that we have had a great deal of success with. As I said, we've been doing this like formally within the center since 2009, and before that since 2005. And so we, you know, I have a great deal so I oversee all these projects. So I am the designated instructor on the roster, always have been. All these projects. And so what ends up happening is I will, you know, essentially staff those projects depending on what the needs are. So I'll get into how we scope and how we identify needs in just one moment. But, you know, for those who are wondering why you might want to work with student consultants, we are within, you know, at Guelph, we are developing tomorrow's leaders. And so with that, you are going to be working with senior students, many of which over the years who have gone on and were hired by their clients. At the very least, they've received glowing letters of recommendation. It's a really great way for some of our clients to test out the market, to test out the client. It's a great way for students to roll up their sleeve and take ownership of their education and apply the theory that they've been learning over the years. This program is primarily geared towards undergrad, senior undergrad students. However, we have worked with graduate students in this context. And we've also worked with clients who need something a little bit more like outside of what senior students within a semester system would allow for. So I'll touch on that in just a moment. But the idea is that you're coming to work with us because you're wanting fresh ideas or insight into a challenge perhaps that you are wanting to address. And so they're going to be applying their insight, their creativity, their design thinking to addressing this issue that you've brought forward to the table. And so it really is a collaborative process that we ask of the client. And we also do our best to ensure that it's an affordable service. So our project starts at around $1,600. We try to keep it in and around this scale, this amount. But we also recognize that this isn't always palatable for a lot of our clients. So where we have been flexible, or we operate on a sliding scale, for instance, is we have worked with some not-for-profits over the years. So it's always been my commitment to our community to ensure that we are being good neighbors and we're stewarding our role and responsibility as a neighbor within the city of Guelph. We can accommodate some not-for-profits and some other very, very early stage startups that may not have the budget to accommodate these projects. And so essentially what I do is we have so many paying clients, and then I hire grad students to help project manage. And then with what space we have available, we open up those spots to work with clients that aren't able to accommodate the full cost of it. So it is a subsidized model that we offer. And our clients love that. They love that they are supporting their community by way of this program as well. So it has actually been a really, really incredible, positive, kind of a win-win situation. So how it works, you might be asking. We follow the semester system. Each project is scoped out in advance. Our deliverables are determined. We really ask that there not be any type of drift that takes place. And we also ask that there's regular communication with our clients. So the best projects that we have is that when there's regular input, dialogue, back and forth, and that's really when projects are heightened. And we also ask that our clients are open-minded. So sometimes clients come forward with a preconceived notion or an idea of what they're going to get in return in terms of an answer to their problem. But what we actually are asking them to do is to be open and receive information and recommendations that the students might have that might be something that they hadn't otherwise considered. So it's more of a give and take kind of a relationship. As I mentioned, we do hire grad students to help project manage. Usually in a typical semester, anywhere between 12 and 15 clients is who we work with. And so that gets to be a lot after a while. So it's a very well-resourced team that we bring in to service. And since we've started, we've worked with over 700 students and more than 220 clients over the years since we began the program. So it's going strong. We've had a tremendous impact, and we love what we do, and we're going to continue to do it as long as we possibly can. So I should not have started with, I'm going to keep this short, and then we're going to have time for questions, because here we are, and I did not keep it short. And we don't have a lot of time for questions. So anyway, so I guess for me, stay in touch, visit our website, email us. You can email me directly. I will maybe get Kelly as a follow-up to share my email address with those who registered for today's talk. Follow us on social, just to learn a little bit more about, keep up with what we do and what we're involved with. And if you think that there's a fit with working with you and supporting your work, we would love to hear from you. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I think we have a few minutes. I don't know if anybody has any questions for me. Everybody's muted, so if somebody's talking, I can't tell.
It's a bit of feedback, isn't it? But yeah, it's interesting. I've never seen this program before, but there again, I haven't seen half a university before. So are you involved in uni 60/50 courses at all?
So, so is that the graduate skill, the pathways course?
Yeah, kind of. It's well, I'm speaking as a HQP director more than anything else.
Right,
So,
right.
Yeah, it's in your school, isn't it?
Yeah, so within Lang, so Lang certainly is involved with the HQP program. We have faculty who teach within that. I should also mention, Keith, that you know, another way in which that Rio and our center have collaborated is when we've worked with those who have applied for OMAFRA funding. Oftentimes, especially within the value product, the value chain stream. Yeah, we've actually often supported researchers through their being able to show the market potential of their research, and so we've created you know, business planning and market strategies around their research. So we've worked with a number of faculty over the years, actually, who come from that program, and so it ends up being where they've you know, built it into their budget when they've applied for OMAFRA. And then we take on those projects with them, and sometimes these projects are multi-termed projects, so they may not be a one and done. It could be 2 or 3 terms in a row where we would work with them.
That's good. One last question, because
yes.
Time's pressing. So in food science, we have this course called 6900, which is Advances in Food Science, which is one of those courses where you essentially can do what you like, review a project. And thinking about our work with this disinfection system, would it be feasible potentially to have the graduate student, take this advanced in food safety, or advanced in food science, should I say, under a supervision of one of your faculty? So essentially what I'm saying in the long term directly is, can we get it for free if we provide a student?
Yeah, so what ends up, so we've done an example of that before, actually, where a student was, a grad student in particular, was enrolled in a course code in their home department, and then they came to class with me, and that ended up being where they would, you know, they would use their project as their, you know, they were essentially the client in the classroom, but they were their own client. So I oversaw their work. I provided, you know, direction on their progress, on what they were trying to do. And so that's something that's very possible. So Keith, if you wanted to reach out afterwards, I'd be happy to chat with you more about that.
For sure, thanks.
No problem. Anybody? I can't see everyone on my screen.
Melanie, it's Paul.
Paul.
So my name is Paul Subject. I'm a poster child of Seabase. We started a company through the Rio office that was based on an OMAFRA grant. We worked with Melanie and her team on 3 different occasions. All I can say is that it was an amazing opportunity. And of course, our company, which is now called Flernergia, has done wildly well as a result of, partially as the result of the work that was done by the kids at Seabase. So
that's awesome. Thank you for
Melanie,
sharing that, Paul.
Melanie, thank you so much for that. And additionally, when Melanie says that sometimes graduates get hired after their project, I did hire one of my Seabase kids that worked for my company for a very short period of time, not Flernergia, but another company that I own. So I just, I think it's an amazing process and an amazing system, and that if you have the opportunity to meet with Melanie and talk with her team about what they have to offer, I think it's a highly important and very valuable service. End of my commercial.
Oh my gosh, I was going to say, and for the record, I did not ask him to say those things, but boy, I'm ever glad that you did. That's awesome. So yeah, so the project that Paul was referring to, we had 3 different groups of students over different semesters that worked with Whale and Paul. In that case, it wasn't just business students. We had engineering students involved in that as well. And so I think that was one point I didn't mention that I intended on. Depending on what the project scope's needs are, I staff it. I use that term, but essentially I bring the skill sets to forward based on what's needed for the project in order to succeed. So we have worked with, it's primarily business students that are in the program, but we have worked across campus with disciplines across campus, and it's been amazing. It's actually, what's been the neatest thing is actually seeing the students interact with one another with their peers from across campus whom they've never met before. They're in completely different disciplines, and I put them in a group together and I say, now go forward and make magic. And they do. It's so impressive to see in a relatively very short period of time, how hard that they work and what they're able to produce by the end of the semester. So it's been really, really great. Super. Thanks, Tyson.
Well, thank you so much, Melanie, for that fantastic presentation. Are there any last questions or comments from anyone?
If it would be helpful, I would be pleased to share the slide deck, Kelly. I don't know if it's something that you wanted to distribute afterwards. I know you're recording, so that might be sufficient, but if anybody is interested, I'd be happy to share the slide deck as well.
I think that would be helpful.
Perfect. Happy to do so. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciated it. And yeah, keep in touch, reach out if you have any questions. And I hope that this was interesting.
Yes, thank you so much, Melanie. And thank you everyone who dialed in today.
Bye, everyone. Take care. Good to see you too, Paul.